going, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find live coverage of the concerts that we get. Got a ton on my plate as of recently. There's a ton of great bands putting out some fantastic records, so you'll be expecting a ton of album reviews, interviews, and things of that nature are to come as well. I post them every Monday and Friday, but I might start picking it back up to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if I'm getting more in the future. But tonight we're going to be talking about Body Thief's newest record, Travel Glow. So this band had approached me a couple months ago, and I actually had heard about them long before that. One of their guitarists, Greg, had been doing like vocal covers, like guitar covers, things of that nature, and I was already a fan of what he did, and I knew he had a band called Body Thief, and so I checked it out, and I really dug it, and I had to hit them up about it, and then circle back to now, 2019, they decided to do something with me, so that's totally cool, and it's just kind of cool how music brings people together. But they will also be releasing an interview that will be going out later this month and later next month in March, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But just want to give a shout out to them and thank them for letting me review their record, which actually comes out this Friday on my birthday, which is totally sick. So definitely go give this one a listen. But I'm gonna go through each track, give you my thoughts and opinions on it, go through some pros and cons, and then finish it out with an overall rating. So the first track is called Sour Sounds. This one has a cool sort of opening to it, a lot of life to it, but as the song kind of progresses, especially towards the verse, it kind of mellows out. Vocally, it's reminiscent of vocalists like Craig Owens, Donovan Morello of Hail the Sun, Anthony Green of Circa Survive, Seosin, things of that nature. Vocally, I feel like obviously they had mentioned it in the interview, but that's not out yet. But I feel like a lot of people would enjoy it if they enjoy those bands. Definitely playing off more of the sort of ambient and melodic side of their music, but they also play a lot in the sort of math rock and sort of post-hardcore style of music, which is really cool. I like the sort of expansiveness of this track. I think it's a decent opener track. It definitely instrumentally is drawing from a lot of Circa Survive, Tides of Man. I would say more along the lines of their more recent stuff, like instrumentally, but there are some tracks that kind of, to me, harken back to older Tides of Man's, like Create and like Dream House and things of that nature. I think it's a solid opener, like I had mentioned prior. I think it has a good way of explaining, and kind of giving an idea of how the rest of the record will sound in comparison to this first track. So we're going to move into track number 2, which is Night Owls in Mating Season. This one's my favorite track off the record. Just loving the energy of this track. It has a cool sort of Hail the Sun sort of vibe to it. I know Hail the Sun also draws from Circa, so kind of in turn also a sort of Circa vibe as well. Vocally, I like the grit. I think it kind of borders on the line of almost screaming in some instances. I think it adds a nice complexity and aggressive element to the record for sure, and it definitely has a cool sort of punchy flow in comparison to Sour Sounds. I felt like that one was not, I wouldn't even say lackluster, but it wasn't as like energetic as this one was, which is definitely nice, and it's a nice change of pace. I think the guitar work on this track is some of my favorite off the record, without a doubt. I love this sort of tappy, sort of real kind of I don't even know how to explain the guitar work, but just really kind of like, again, that sort of progressive post-hardcore sort of sound, and I really think they pull a lot from like the bands that I mentioned, Circa Survive, a lot. You could definitely hear the sort of phrasing and the styling that they would use in a track like this. So definitely give this one a listen if you're a fan of Circa. I feel like, or just this band in general, I feel like you'll dig for sure. We're going to move into track number 3, which is Ophiliotropism. I don't even know if I'm going to pronunciate any of these words right, because I feel like they want me to jump over some hurdles a little bit, so I'm going to definitely be practicing my pronunciation on tonight's review. But this one is a kind of an interlude sort of track. I think it was a nice change of pace in comparison to this sort of high energy track that Night Owl's Mating Season brought to the table. It kind of bridges the gap in the record as well. I think a lot of bands are starting to kind of move in towards that direction. A band that comes to mind, like right off the top of my head, is Silent Planet. They do a phenomenal job of kind of, incorporating and infusing their sounds together. I appreciate the sort of more softer, more subtle vocals in this track. I think it was really solid, and just it's a different change of pace from the sort of more like almost like yelly, sort of raspy, sort of like high register vocals that you're used to. So we're going to move into track number 4, which is Innerverse. This one is the single that they had released. They released a music video for it, so definitely go give this one a listen because it's out now. But this one's one of my favorites as well, and I think this track just grooves. I love the swing to it. It just kind of wistfully puts you in this place, and it's just a blissful track that I really enjoyed, even prior to them announcing a record. I definitely dug this one a ton, and I appreciate the switch ups in certain parts. There's a little bit of spoken word. I think that bands like La Dispute come to mind, again Silent Planet as well if you're going sort of the heavier route, but I like the incorporation of that. I feel like their sound kind of lends a little bit of that mixed in there. Being as an Ocean is another band that I can remember, but it kind of lends that sort of vibe, and I definitely dig that. I think the lead work is definitely impressive, and it is one of the more underrated things of the song in general. I think it's definitely the MVP. It's putting in a lot of work. I like this sort of delay and reverb that they used. I think they used it in a really nice way, and it really kind of accents the sort of lead guitar work that they're surrounding the rhythm guitar parts with. Definitely one of the best tracks that can represent this band out of the bunch for now. I would also, again, put Night Owls and Mating in that sort of category as well, but definitely go give this one a listen. I think it's a phenomenal track. So and I also feel like it pulls a lot from more of the sort of like math rock influences that they had mentioned in the interview, that I unfortunately can't remember, but I don't even know if they even gave me bands. It was just kind of like a view of different math rock bands currently. I know that they had mentioned Covet as being one of them, and you can hear it in kind of like the TTNG style, guitar phrasing, things of that nature. But I don't feel like this track, in comparison to the other tracks that I had talked about previously, that they have this sort of heavy influence on them. This one definitely feels very much a Body Thief track, and I feel like they weren't really kind of pulling from a specific band. It was really just called all around a great track, and I can't recommend this track enough. So we're gonna move into track number 5, which is Heliotropism. Again, probably butchering it anyway, but I feel like it's a nice continuation of what I had mentioned previously in Innerverse. Is that sort of spoken word. I like that it's expounded upon. I think it pairs well with what they're doing, and I think it really kind of fits the ebb and flow of this track in particular. I think it's an unbridled version of their sort of melodic nature, and you can hear it more specifically, I feel like, in these sort of interlude sort of tracks off the record. It does have that Circus Survive feel to it as well, but I think it translates well into their styling as well. You can definitely notice a Circa vibe, and I think you could notice a Circa vibe throughout this record, but more specifically, I think that they were able to kind of take those sorts of Circa Survive parts and kind of make it into their own thing, which is, the ultimate goal of being in a band and doing that sort of stuff. So definitely go give this one a listen. I think it's a solid track nonetheless. So we're gonna move into track number 6, which is Vesper Visits. This one's one of my favorites, getting that sort of old Tides of Man vibes that I had mentioned prior. I think of albums like Create and Dreamhouse, kind of in that sort of vibe, which isn't a bad thing in the slightest. They're one of my favorite bands, and that Dreamhouse record is like one of my favorites of all time. So kudos to you for drawing that sort of comparison. I also find similarity to Garrett's vocals from Silent Planet in Body Thief's vocalist, and just the way that he kind of delivers some of his lyrics, which is definitely nice. Again, the tapping guitar riffs really kind of stick out, and I appreciate that. It's just nice little extra things in a track that really make them unique, and I like that aspect is just highlighted and really embraced in this track. I like this sort of heavier, darker direction that they were going in, especially towards the latter half of the track. Definitely some Tides of Man vibes at the end, and I'd love to hear kind of a continuation of that. I feel like they could definitely go in that sort of darker direction and really make the tracks like interesting and unique. So we're gonna move into track number 7, which is Clocks Like Hell, another favorite of mine. I feel like the back half of this record is just phenomenal. So spoiler alert, but anyway, getting back to the track, again, the guitar work is phenomenal on this track. I think it's probably my favorite up there with Innerverse. I think those two kind of switch back and forth, but both great. I think both vocally and instrumentally, they definitely hit their stride, particularly in this track. It's got a real sort of cool beat and rhythmic pattern to it that makes it really unique. And I feel like every time that I was listening over to this record, this one track definitely stuck out to me. And like I said earlier, it's easily one of the best tracks off of Travel Glow. So definitely go give this one a listen. I think it's peak Body Thief, and it takes all the best kind of pieces of the puzzle and kind of puts it in one singular track, which is awesome. So we're gonna move into the last track, track number 8, which is Temptation of Knowledge. This one is another favorite of mine, as if you're noticing a trend. Another phenomenal track, and I think it's a great follow-up to Clocks Like Hell. I wasn't really sure on the start of the record. I felt like it was a little bit off at the beginning. I felt like Sour Sounds, Aphiliotropism, while they are great tracks, I feel like they kind of started off a little rocky, and I like that their landing is a little bit safer. Like I said, the back half of this record is awesome. I think the guitar work on this track, again, I've been highlighting a lot of guitar parts, but I feel like as a guitar player myself, those are the things that I kind of gravitate towards. But this is another great guitar track. The tapping just over the top. I think it's just not too much, but it's not too little where you're like, oh man, I wish there was some other elements mixed into this track. It has a nice blend of both of those things that really work to the benefit of the song. The latter, like I said, the latter half of the record really kind of rounds out the album, and I think it definitely takes it to a higher level for sure. Definitely combines a lot of the best aspects of Body Thief into one track, and is definitely a favorite of mine as well. So some pros and cons that I have about this one. It's very melodic, it's spacious, it has some really cool soundscapes. I think in the tracks that have more of the interlude sort of pieces to it, being heliotropism and apheliotrophism, I feel like those two definitely kind of pair well to that, and you can hear it in a lot of other tracks. I feel like Vesper Visits, Clocks Like Hell, you can hear those sorts of like ambient sort of strung out parts, which is really nice. I think it's pulling from the best of sort of post-hardcore and math rock, just at the current time. It has that sort of vibe of both, but also not being just kind of just over the top nuts. I think it's very unique in that respect, that is very melodic, but it also has a lot of technicality hidden underneath as well. It's a good amount of diversity, and I think instrumentally it's phenomenal work. I think everybody in this band kind of does their own thing, but it all culminates together in one really unique package. So definitely dig that. Some cons that I do have about the record, I wish there was some more vocal diversity. I feel like there's an absence of lows to kind of mid-range vocals. There was a little bit of falsetto, but I feel like it was kind of a tease. I would love to hear more of that. You could hear some nice glimpses throughout some of the tracks off the record, but I feel like there weren't kind of like solid, sound parts of falsetto or mid-range. I'd love to hear some more of that. That would be phenomenal. And maybe a second vocal. I think like harmonies are super awesome. As if you're familiar with the channel, you know I love harmonies, so I'd love to hear that. I feel like, again, with like kind of a lower register vocal and kind of like their vocalist now, I feel like that would be a cool pairing. And I think it would just add another like element, another depth to the band as well. So definitely something to consider. Don't know if you'll take it into consideration, but who knows, it could definitely happen in the future. But my overall rating for Body Thieves Travel Glow, I'm going to be giving it a 9.5 out of 10. Definitely go give this one a listen. If you're a fan of Hail the Sun, if you're a fan of Circus Survive, if you're a fan of like Chiodo's level of Craig Owens projects, or like Tides of Man, I definitely feel like you'll dig this band an absolute ton. Can't recommend this band enough. They're doing some really unique stuff, and always down to support this sort of more underground and unknown band. So let me know in the comments what you think about this record. I know it doesn't come out until Friday, so you'll have to wait a whole day to go give it a listen, but seriously, let me know. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on it. If you agree with me, if you disagree, I'd love to know. And if you enjoyed the review a lot, make sure to share, hit that thumbs up, and like the page, and just subscribe. It really means a lot. Putting in a ton of work, and it would mean a lot to me if you definitely hit that subscribe button. So my name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps out our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com, and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.